Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
Warning. The following podcast may occasionally contain strong language and material that is not suitable for all ages. If you are easily offended, it is highly advised that you turn back now. However, if you're a degenerate, welcome, brethren. You've found your home.
Welcome to the Crime Diner. We're a Jersey podcast, and on the menu is a variety of true crime, cults, mysteries, historical hilarities, and sometimes victim stories. We do this within a Dinner with Friends theme. I'm Nidia.
I'm Dana.
I'm Cindy.
Last week, I shared the horrific story of the murder of Denise Luthold at the hand of her husband, Nathan. This former missionary picked up a souvenir while working in Lithuania that he would later kill his wife for.
That's terrible.
Yes, so that episode was called Missionary Imposition, and if you want to go check it out, there you have it.
Honestly, we've been getting a lot of interesting feedback about people loving your titles of the episodes.
Really?
Or I think so, anyway.
All right.
Your Axeman title was particularly...
Not a leg man, an axe man.
More of an Axeman. I giggled a little.
Yeah.
Posted that one.
You know what it reminded me of? You know that little meme that went around with a little girl, and she was like, well, you know, her mom is interviewing her, and she's like, what will you do if a man breaks into the house? And she's like, I'll kick his ass.
Yeah. That was like one of those original first viral videos back in the day.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to kick his ass.
The last story I told you was about nursery rhymes and the potential that the Muffin Man was England's first serial killer.
Right.
Remember?
Yeah.
But a quick little goog, we all learned that that's not true. That title was held by Mary Ann Cotton, and tonight I want to tell you about her. She was convicted of one actual murder, but she was suspected of killing over 20 people. But not everyone believes that she is guilty of these crimes, so we'll discuss.
Shit.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. But first, the food. Let us pray. Bless us, O patrons, for these thy gifts which we are about to receive from thy donations through Patreon every month under the power of the V podcast.
Cult.
What is this?
What in the world? That looks salacious.
It looks like a...
That looks like a bunch of turds.
It's like a pie with sausages. Yes?
They're just like laid out on a bed of yellow. Oh, so that looks pretty damn
What is
good.
this called?
It's called Toad in a Hole.
A toad in a hole.
That's what it looks like.
That's what it looks like, yep.
It's I guess sausages cooked with
I guess.
Yeah,
What do you mean, I guess?
I guess
Is it sausages?
Yorkshire pudding.
Ooh, I love Yorkshire pudding.
Yorkshire pudding,
Okay.
and then sausages, and then I did fingerlings with roasted carrots.
They look so good.
Okay, that looks much better than the initial thing that you showed us with like 6 sausages strewn over something that looked like puke.
Stop it.
And then the dessert is...
Ooh, that
What is
looks
it?
so good.
And I think Nydia made something very similar. They remind me of Twix bars, but it's called Millionaire Shortbread.
Oh my God.
Okay, you had
And it
me
was
at
featured-
millionaire.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, and it was featured on the Great British
Bake Off?
Bake Off.
Okay.
I don't watch the show, so I just know.
I've caught like snippets of it.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's my go-to show for
Is
when I'm
it?
sick and in bed.
Let me tell you something. I just watched a show on Netflix, a cooking show called The Pressure Cooker.
Ooh.
It's like Survivor, but for chefs. It's so good. There's no, like, the chefs cook for themselves. They eliminate each other. There's, like, tactics and, like, gameplay. And it was, like, really good. You should watch it. I loved it. It was so good.
Did they have to hunt for their food and shit?
No. It's just, like, got the same kind of game. They all live in the same house. And they, like, have to eliminate each other and, like, make alliances and shit. It was good. I thought it was really good.
Okay.
It would have been interesting if they had to hunt for their own food. That would have been better. You're right. You just ruined the whole show. No, I hate this show. Don't even watch it. It was stupid.
All right.
What's this drink, though?
This is a repeat. This is Pimm's Cup.
I love it.
Oh, wow.
It's got this aftertaste of cucumber, just like just like
refreshing,
tickling your tongue, just like tantalizing your taste buds.
It tastes like iced tea.
Yes.
Like, you know what I'm talking about?
With
like
fruit in it.
Yeah.
And cukes. We love a little cuke.
I think last time I made it with Sprite. This time I actually made it with ginger ale.
Oh, it's so
love
good.
it.
I'm
love
going to
it.
drink the whole pitcher.
Yeah. What kind of liquor's in it?
It's called Pimm's.
Oh.
Let's eat.
That food was, I mean,
So good.
it was balls to the walls. It was the tits and ass.
For I hate you so much. For our American listeners, how would you describe Yorkshire pudding?
It would be goopy.
No.
Yeah, it would. It would be.
Goopy is not a word I would use to describe that.
Pudding is goopy.
Yeah, but that wasn't goopy.
No, it wasn't. That's what I'm saying. It's like a fucking misnomer.
It's like a pie, sort of.
No,
it puffs up.
Tiny pie. It's like a focaccia,
No, but like when you cook it, it like puffs up,
Right.
And then it like flattens
like
out.
a naan, like a naan bread.
Yeah, like naan.
Naan.
Yeah.
Naan.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I was thinking more of like a Dutch baby.
Right, but I don't think a lot of people know what that is, though.
Oh, okay.
They're so good. But this was fantastic, and she made like an onion gravy. Was that supposed to come with it, or you just?
Yes.
It was so fucking good. Something's a little spicy in it. I don't know if it was because I just ate a carrot right before we came back down. I took a carrot and stuck it in the gravy and then ate that. And I'm like, ooh, something had a little kick to it. It was really good.
That's the spice that I used on the potatoes and the carrots.
So good.
Well, let me just talk about that onion gravy. If I could make a chapstick of that onion gravy, I'd slap that on my lips every day.
Yeah, it's-
that shit. I mean, I would put that on everything.
Yeah.
My cereal, fucking everything. It's
No,
delicious.
no. It was really, really delicious.
Yeah.
The texture of the top part of the crust that like, it was like, I'm like, it's so good.
It's crunchy, yet not.
I
don't know,
really
it's a
hate
fucking
sausage,
weird
but that
texture.
was, fine.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
What about dessert?
The dessert was very rich. It's like one of those desserts that you think you want more than you actually do.
Oh, I went back for a second piece, but the top layer of like the ganache or whatever was on top was like a little too thick, but the cookie, and what was between the cookie and the chocolate?
It was a homemade caramel.
Oh,
It was good. It was
my
like
God.
a little Twix.
it was like a little like cakey Twix. It was very delicious. The drink, I'm on my third drink. Now,
So
to be
am I,
fair, these are
and
small.
I'm driving
They're
home.
small, yeah. But we're going to finish this picture, certainly. Tell by the end of the podcast.
See, but that's the thing. One of us has to drive.
That's true. I'm glad it's not me. I'll get us a ride. Don't think I won't.
Yeah, because I don't know when to stop.
Yes, I know this about you.
I don't have a drinking problem, but I also don't know when to stop.
You have a stop drinking problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the kind of problem I have. So anyway, I got to meet Natalie's fiance. Natalie's my daughter. Her fiance's parents for the first time.
And they've been together a long time. You never met them yet, right?
They've been together for 9 years.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually went out on their 9-year anniversary.
Okay.
And we went to Carmine's, which
Yes.
is a casino restaurant.
Yeah.
I think it's not just in the casino.
Yeah, it's like a chain
Yeah.
of some sort.
Yeah. So anyway, so we went there, and it's like a family style restaurant.
Yeah.
Where you order food, and like the waitress comes up, and she's like, I just want to explain that our meals are they serve 4 people.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so single serve. Because me, I'll eat 4
Especially
servings.
a pasta or some sort
Exactly.
of Italian food.
So she's like, okay, well, so we order food for the whole table, and I'm thinking I'm going to pay for it, because I was going to do the right thing and pay for everybody,
Yeah,
right? But there's
yeah.
12 of us. So it's like, it's going to be a lot.
$1,000 dinner,
right.
yeah,
But I
right.
was just like, whatever, fuck it,
Yeah.
I got to make a nice impression, right?
Yeah.
But before so we get to the restaurant, and we're standing outside waiting for our party, because like when you make a large reservation, they don't seat you. You know what I mean?
Till
You have
everybody's
to,
there,
yeah,
yeah.
till everybody's there. So we're waiting, and so Natalie's future sister-in-law, she hands over a cake for me, Like, you know, we were celebrating their engagement or whatever.
Yeah.
And so she hands over a cake, and she's like, oh my God, I was so scared to drop it. And she's like, can you hold this for a second while I take my coat off?
Oh, no.
And so she hands it to me, and she's there with her father. I've never met this man. This is the first time I've met him, okay?
Yeah.
I literally shook his hand, and this is the second interaction we've had.
Yeah.
So she hands me the cake box, and I pretend to fall with it, and they jump out of their skin. And then I start cackling at the grandiosity of my joke. And he was like, at first he laughed politely, but then he was, I think, a little bit annoyed that this is the second interaction he's had with me and I'm a grown woman.
I've found that intrusive thoughts can be problematic.
So yes. And then I proceeded to order a bottle of champagne that was way expensive. Because I was like, all right, fuck it. I'm paying for it, right? So I'll just fucking go ham, right?
Yeah, you're stupid.
So I fucking ordered a bottle of champagne. And then I was like, I realized the price of it. And I was like, y'all, if you're not going to drink it, pass it over here. I'll drink it. I was like, I'll drink that shit. So then the whole night I just kept monitoring people's champagne usage.
Which she does to us here on the podcast.
Yes.
I've had 3 drinks. Why have you only had 1? I'm like, well, because you're an alcoholic.
Well, so I grabbed my mother's drink. She just literally took 1 sip out of it, so I had another one, right?
Get your money's worth, girl.
Right. So then I had a mojito. And they were so fucking good, right? So good, in fact, that when the manager walked over to us and said, hey, how's your pasta? I said, oh, the vodka's great. And then I was like, oh, he's not talking to me. This isn't about your mojito. And also, I think mojitos have rum.
It does, yeah.
So anyhow.
I think so.
So then I finished my mojito, and everybody's getting fucking seconds on their Coca-Colas. So I was like, can I get another mojito? So I'm running up the tab on this, and I'm also drunk.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that I met his parents.
Yeah.
So we're joking and everything. And then I'm having a little side conversation with my son, and I didn't realize that his mother paid the check.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, first off, I want to die because I ran up that check.
Yeah.
On drink. Like me and my sister were just like, oh, Malibu Breeze and mojitos and champagne. And like, fuck it. You know, we're going to pay for it anyway.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it was bad.
Did you try to give them money?
No, because I didn't want to embarrass her.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like the sad side effect of going out to dinner with like a big group of people. It's a lot of fun. But then when the check comes, everybody's like looking
like a
around.
whole thing, yeah.
Yes. And everybody's like, oh my God, how much? I only ate this much. Should I pay this much? You know what I mean? So the next day, and also my phone was dead. So, and I had no cash on me. So I was like, fuck, I can't Venmo her even if I tried, right?
Yeah.
And so what I ended up doing was the next day, after I got over my severe hangover, I sent her half of the bill.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. If she's going to take it.
Yeah, she took it.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, she took it. But, like, she sent me, like, a little message, you know, how much fun it was and, you know, how we're going to be grannies someday.
Oh, my God.
But we were literally at the table coming up with names for Natalie's children, future children.
Oh, my God. Was Natalie like, can you shut the fuck up?
I think she had enough to drink that she was like game for it.
Okay.
But had she not had enough to drink where she was game for it, she would have been like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know she would.
Yeah. But also when the guy came over to ask about our pasta, she's like, could you imagine he was some random guy? Because he was just wearing like a turtleneck.
If he just came over and was like, how was your pasta?
Yeah. Anyway, it was funnier than it sounds just now.
No, that was a highly entertaining story. Yeah. And it did make me think about your intrusive thoughts. And that I have noticed recently that, like, intrusive thoughts have been problematic for me also.
Right.
Because just mere hours ago this morning, I was giving my girlfriend a kiss, and for whatever reason, I was like, I'm going to blow into her mouth right now.
Had you just woken up?
No, but I had just brushed my teeth and we were, whatever.
Oh, okay. And yeah, because if you had just, with morning breath, that's a psychopath.
No, I literally, and blew so hard into her mouth that she said my breath came out her nose.
Oh, God.
She was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I was like, I don't know. I just felt like it was a thing I should do. And she was like, that was a fucking weird feeling. That was like your cheeks filled up with air. And
why
she was like,
though?
I don't know. was literally, my brain was like, blow into her mouth right now. And I was like, okay. If you think that's a good idea. She was like, that was the weirdest sensation I've ever felt. It was very strange behavior. I'm sorry.
Wow.
But yeah, sometimes, intrusive thoughts just really do get you into trouble.
Yeah.
What if you would have dropped the cake? Like,
We would have eaten it anyway.
Yeah, it's fine.
Although, like, they paid for an Instagram famous person made it. So they paid a lot of money for the cake.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, it was very pretty.
Yeah.
They paid a lot of money for the cake.
That's crazy.
But...
And then you pretend drop it.
And then I pretend drop it. And it was not appreciated.
That's actually really funny.
Yeah. And he had his hands full of flowers. Like,
I'm surprised he didn't throw them in the air. If he would have thrown them in the air, my God.
But it's like, hi, nice to meet you. And then I fucking play a prank on him.
Oh my God.
Like, why am I this way?
I don't know. It's our brains. I don't think they work right.
I know.
They literally just be like, do the thing. You're like, okay. You exist.
I've tamped it down though.
Yeah.
Because my intrusive thoughts are crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I've had intrusive thoughts where, like, we have a security desk on each floor, and I've wanted to, like, just clear off all of the stuff on the security desk in front of the security guard.
Mine are always like weirdly violent. Like, I'll be like riding over a bridge or something, and I'll be like, I mean, if we jumped, and your brain just like thinks these like very violent, I don't know, weird thoughts. I think them all the time. Like when we were on a boat when we were in Key West, we were like going really, really fast, and I'm like, if I just like flung myself from this boat, like would I skip on the water, or like would they even know? Because I was like all the way in the back. I'm like, how far would they get before I realized I flung myself out of the boat? Like that's just weird thoughts that you have.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of closet space in our house. Mm-hmm. We have what's called a his and hers closet, which is, in our case, a hers and hers closet. Right?
You and your homophobic house.
Before
A
Danny...
his and hers closet. What is there, like penises in there?
Look it up. Okay. Before Danny moved in, it used to be my winter spring, and now I have to share it with my wife. Okay. So all of my clothes that I had spread out between these two closets now are just on one side of the closet. That's a lot of clothes. Yeah. Okay. And, well, our closet is not holding up so well.
Okay.
When we came home the other day, the giant piece of wood that holds all the clothes was broken in half, and all the clothes that were on it was just spilled to the center of the closet.
That sucks so bad.
Were they folded?
No, they were
hanging.
The giant piece of wood.
Like the thing that the bar.
The bar?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Remember that happened to me in my closet, but it happened in the middle of the night, and I had like convinced myself that someone broke in.
Well, if somebody had broken in, this giant piece of wood would be weapons.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fully like they were sheared in the center, and they were just like spikes. I was ready to cutthroat kitchen. There you go. Yeah. They were just aggressive. So
that sucks.
And then there's like shards of wood all the way through in my clothes as well. So I'm like shaking it out to get the shards of wood out. So needless to say,
that sounds
now
like a nightmare.
all of my clothes are sitting on top of the bed in the guest room, and I am thinking, wow, I have a lot more clothes in here than I thought I did.
I just did a purge. Like a beginning of the year. Like,
here's the thing. I don't want to purge. I don't want to purge. There's no purging of my clothes. Yeah. I just need more closet space. And my wife's not going to share.
Divorce, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's logical.
That's what I
kill
think.
her.
Yeah, we can kill her.
Make it look like an accident.
Yeah.
Y'all are no help.
Well, we
do you want solutions, or do you want to complain about it?
I know.
We're coming with solutions.
Those will get me in jail.
Well, nobody has to know.
Nobody has to know. No one listens to this podcast.
No. End scene. So you have a story to tell us.
I do. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
All right.
Hey, this is Ken M.
Padawan J.
Coach Duffy.
From the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour podcast. Every week, the ODPH is talking sports, movies, TV, comics, and more. It's always a parlay of topics on each episode. You can find the ODPH on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and wherever you find great podcasts, such as the one you're listening to right now. Don't forget to check out OchoDuroParlayHour.com where you can find the links to all of the ODPH social media accounts, links to the bands whose music you hear each week on the show, hashtag 607 podcast info, and parlay points, our companion blog section of the show. Thanks for listening to the ODPH. Now get back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
This week I got my story from hauntedyorkshire.co.
Is it Yorkshire or Yorkshire?
I don't know. Yorkshire? Yorkshire? Probably Yorkshire. But I don't know. We're probably saying it wrong. MarianneCotton.co, HistoryExtra.com, TheLineup.com, Britannica.com, and Wikipedia, basically for a timeline. So like the chunk of my story is from Wikipedia, but it was put together pretty well, so I'm gonna, tell you the story from that. Today I want to tell you about Marianne Cotton, but I want to set the scene for the place and time that she lived in, because I think it's important to understand why some people think that she may not have been guilty of all of the crimes she's suspected of. So between 1800 and 1850, England's population doubled. Factories popped up all over the country, churning out the products of Britain's imperial expansion. Just like America and every other capitalist society, new technology meant that fewer farmer workers were needed, sending thousands from the countryside in search of work. The cost of living skyrocketed as demand increased, obviously, right?
Right.
Many families were forced to live side by side in hastily built houses known as tenements, divided into individual rooms in which entire families would live, right?
Yeah, I remember when you first explained the tenement to me, I was like, yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah, fucking tragic.
Yeah.
And this is, as bad as it was in New York, it's just as bad in London, or in England,
I bet.
like, terrible. Yeah. Conditions were terrible. Many houses flooded or collapsed. Sanitation was non-existent. And most times, commonly, hundreds of people were using the same bathroom.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
Imagine. For the homeless, the alternative to sleeping on the streets or entering workhouses was a penny sit-up, where they would pay 1 penny and you could sit but not lie to sleep for the night. 2 pence could get you an upgrade to a bench with a rope strung up to lean over, while 4 pennies would give you a wooden coffin to sleep in.
Oh, give me the wooden coffin for the 4 pennies. And just close me up when I die in the middle of the night.
Truly. And they probably
freezing to
They
death.
probably didn't even do that. Probably just dumped you out.
Yeah,
back.
probably.
Children had it pretty rough as well. They made up 25% of the workforce in mines and factories and workshops. Children.
Damn.
It wasn't until 1842 that laws were introduced to prevent children from under 10 working underground. Infants as young as 4 years old would be found deep underground holding up ventilator doors for coal wagons to pass through, usually pushed by other children. And honestly, I was thinking about that today. I'm like, I saw a little kid yesterday that was 3 or 4 years old. And I'm like, his little arms were the size of this microphone stand. You could wrap your whole hand around it.
They're babies.
How the fuck could you even... I could see at least a kid of 10, you're like, we're going to starve.
Right.
So go to work,
right?
And that sucks. But
a 4-year-old just learned how to talk.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Right.
And they're just
He's Mommy, Mommy.
Yeah, exactly.
He should be home watching Peppa Pig. Instead, he's holding a vent.
Yeah.
And he must have been swole.
Yeah.
Because holding something overhead for all them hours.
Yeah. It was like that little kid that, the dad made him do all the workout. The little, barbarian kid or whatever. Do you remember in the 90s when that little kid was all, jacked as hell? So anyway, Britain's factories employed thousands of children workers because they were smaller than adults and they could crawl beneath machines and clean better or whatever. Life expectancy at birth for the average Victorian citizen was about 42 years old, and more than 25% of the children died before their 5th birthday. So, that's just baseline.
Yeah.
This is not just this woman, but
they
baseline.
couldn't get attached.
No. Obviously, disease was rampant. And there were 4 major outbreaks of cholera between 1832 and 1866. So, massive amounts of people died of cholera.
Yeah, but think about how dirty it must have been.
Fucking
something
disgusting.
that nobody talks about is, getting your period during that time.
Oh, my God.
And, women at that time, they were covered up, completely. And they had, multiple layers of clothes.
Yeah, even the people that lived in poverty...
Right.
Had many layers of clothing on.
Right.
And
could you imagine?
You couldn't clean that.
No.
And I know that they had to pass a law that you couldn't spit in the street because people were spitting in the street and then they were walking into their house and they were getting everyone sick.
And dragging it on their, like,
and their
dresses.
shoes and their dresses and shit. Yeah.
Bro.
Nasty.
So dirty.
Just covered
and, like,
in
the
filth.
chamber pots, they would just drop it out the window.
Yes.
And, like, if you had a girl date, you would, like, you know, have to shield her from the freaking rain.
Oh, my
piss
God.
rain. And just
shit rain. Like, the level of filth on everything. On the walls, on the ground, on the sky. Like, the whole bit on the sky. What the fuck am I talking about?
On the sky. Well,
just
you know,
everything.
the pollution.
Yes, the clouds, just like, you can, like, picture, like, dirty old London, you know, like, with the, like, bristle brooms on the street and shit, like, just fucking gross, you know?
Right. And how did they, like, I'm sorry, I'm on a tangent.
No, because I'm going to talk about soap and stuff.
Clean, like, their babies' diapers and stuff like that if water wasn't easily...
I mean, in, like, pails with those, like,
but like they would wash other things with it.
Yeah,
too.
Man. And like during like the Great Depression, I know this is a different time, but during the Great Depression, they would like the whole family would use one big tub to clean in. And, like, the dad would go first, then the mom, and then the kids, like, from oldest to youngest. And that's why, where we got the phrase, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because the bathwater would be so disgusting.
By the time the baby...
lose the baby in it. Yeah. Like, nasty, bro. Just,
that's
like...
so fucking gross.
So, no wonder people were just, like, dropping, like, fucking flies.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
If you were eating ass back then, you were eating some nasty ass.
I mean, if you were doing anything besides, like, straight up missionary, like, what the fuck? And even that had to been real grimy.
Yes. Yeah, but like, I mean, maybe that's why, like, you know, you're like facing, you're the furthest possible away from your genital area.
Yeah.
You know? There was no foreplay.
Oh, God, no.
Only the French did.
Only the dirty French girls. That's what I was just thinking, like, the very rich, like, people were probably, like, into some freaky shit because they were, like, clean and bathing and shit.
Yeah, but rarely.
Right, yeah, right.
Dude, you can't get me started on that. Do you know, like, I read a book about how, like, they would all have, like, one pot. It would be, like, this long pole, and, like, it had a rag wrapped at the end of it, and that was their toilet paper, and, like, it would sit in this, like, pot of water, and then you would just, like, scrub your ass with it, and then put it back, and the whole family would use it. I can't even take
a shower after someone just took a shower, because I don't want to stand in someone else's steam water.
Oh, like, okay, that's a problem.
No, I know, but, like, could you imagine? I know that that's me. Like, I know that that's me. I love being... you know, mostly single and, like, having my own bathroom and I don't have to share it with anybody. I love that for me. I love having all of my own things that no one touches. Perfect. Love it for me.
Right.
Imagine sharing a poop stick with someone. Like, the fuck? Like, no. 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 Just simply no. We're not doing that. What happens when, you know, the apocalypse happened? Do we have to go back to poop stick days? Can we just have leaves? Like, what's happening here?
Oh, hell no. I'll never go back to poop stick days.
I've been watching The Last of Us.
Oh, yeah, I started that, yeah.
And I'm like, the first episode, I'm like, why do you want to live? I used to, like, when I watched The Walking Dead back in the day, I'm like, oh, we could have survived the... Now I'm like, no, just let me go.
Yeah.
Just let me go. No, thank you.
Not
Please
in the
and
mood.
thank you. I'm
not
good.
in the mood.
I don't want to run.
Nope.
No.
No. Mm-mm.
And these motherfuckers are coming fast after them and shit. No. Mm-mm. I don't like being chased. Don't chase me.
No.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just be like, fuck it. I'm not playing. I'm taking the ball home.
Yeah.
Fuck it. My son has an impacted wisdom tooth.
Imagine.
And it got me thinking, like, you would just fucking die.
The Dollop does an episode on colonial dentistry and just, like, talks about, like, what it was like during colonial times to, like, have a toothache or to, like, whatever.
So what happened?
Fucking horrific.
What do you mean?
Like, horrific. Well, first of all...
And it's so fucking common.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously you have a toothache. Like, obviously. And they would, like, brush their teeth with, like, you know, the fucking nothing. Like,
right, yeah.
You know, a lot of times they were brushing their teeth with, like, lime and shit, so their, like, teeth were rotting out of their face because it was, like, chemicals and mercury and all this shit, you know? Cocaine, they're just, like, rubbing it on their teeth. Yeah, that would help, yeah. But one of the, like, biggest things that they did, and this is, like, not pleasant, so, like, I'm sorry, but they would, you know, steal teeth from slaves and then make dentures, and, like, rich white people would just, like, get their...
Yeah.
They would pull the tooth from the slave and then just shove it right in your hole. You know, wherever
really?
Yes, bitch.
And it would heal there?
I mean, yeah.
Oh my god.
Horrific. On all aspects of that. Fucking horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But wait, but like, what would they do if you had an impacted, like, infected...
I mean, so a lot of times, like, the barber was the one that would, like,
and they would just
do
pull
it,
the
and they
tooth,
would take
right?
the eraser and, like, cut the gum back and just, like, yank it out. Like, stand on your body and pull it out with a pliers.
Give you a shot of whiskey or something.
Yeah. Fucking conk me over the head. Just absolutely not.
Just fucking kill. Well, give me that cocaine.
Yes.
And
lots
then
of
I'll be
that.
all right.
Yeah, plenty of that.
Yeah.
A little cocaine.
Yeah.
Even a little heroin. I'll be fine with that.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little, like, speedball or something.
Thank you.
Please and thank you.
Yeah. All right.
For, like, at least a week. My God.
Until I heal. Until I'm
a
recovered.
full-blown addict.
That's right.
So back to the story. Besides poverty that was, like, just constantly killing people, people were unintentionally killing themselves constantly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Emerald green was a popular shade for dresses, hair accessories, and even wallpaper during the Victorian era.
Terrible.
Yeah. The color was achieved by using a toxic and somewhat deadly mixture of arsenic and copper. They called it the death dye, and it was horrific. So
That was the green dye?
yeah, it was like made from arsenic and copper, and like so this sort of sounds like a lot like what you hear with the girls that did the clocks.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that sort of thing. Like they didn't realize how much they were the radium girls or whatever.
Yeah.
They didn't realize how much they were poisoning themselves.
Right.
They would use this green wallpaper, this arsenic wallpaper on the walls, and then they would
wow.
live in it like lead paint, you know,
Right,
all that.
yeah.
So
We haven't learned.
No.
We really haven't learned. Because after that was lead.
yeah,
And then
we're
it was
gonna talk about lead, too.
asbestos.
Yeah. Yeah.
When are we going to be done poisoning ourselves?
I don't know. So Victorians, they romanticized the tuberculosis epidemic and the effects on the appearance. So healthy women went to great lengths to achieve that brink of death look. Very pale, translucent skin symbolized both beauty and class. The logic
And death. And death. Don't forget about death.
The logic being that wealthy, privileged women did not need to work outside the home.
Right, yeah.
So they could look sick, but they wouldn't really be sick.
Okay.
Okay, that was the aesthetic.
All right. Also, the 5 head. I've seen so many paintings where like the forehead extends.
Their hair is like pulled way
like
back.
fucking.
Probably because it was falling out in clumps.
No,
because
I
of
think
their
it was
shit.
shaved back there.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Like it was shaved to like make it look like you had male pattern baldness or something. You know what I'm talking about?
I do like those old timey paintings. So advertisements for arsenic wafers.
Arsenic wafers.
Yes, bitch, they would eat this. They would eat.
Oh, to get that sickly
yes,
look.
they would make themselves like a little ill. Yeah.
A little?
Yeah.
Only a tiny bit of arsenic takes to kill you.
Yeah. So like
Okay.
if you build up a tolerance if you keep eating it, right? Oh. So an advertisement for arsenic wafers and face soap promised to transform the most sallow skin into radiant health, remove pimples, clear face freckles, and tan, give the complexion of an indescribable brilliance, and lead every young lady a charm of a person which makes her adorable.
Oh, wow.
The side effects? No big deal.
Okay. What are the side effects?
A little nervous system damage,
Oh,
a little
shit.
kidney failure, hair loss, conjunctivitis, and ironically, skin lesions.
Not the lesions.
And so if arsenic wasn't your jam,
Right.
or it caused you to have skin lesions, you could always use a little white lead-based paint to get that oh-so-desirable tuberculosis glow. Some people would even draw blue veins on top of the paint to accentuate the effect.
Yes, like to make it look like you had blue
Your
veins.
are
Yeah.
like popping out of your skin.
Wow. Can I tell you a little tuberculosis story?
Love to hear it.
All right. When I was in school, I think it was like 6th grade, we got tested, TB tested
Mm-hmm.
at school. And I was so jealous of this girl named Nardi Mendez. She tested positive. She had a positive result. And I was
fuck outta
so
here.
jealous of her.
Are you okay?
She was out of school for a little bit, but I
you
was
a
like, she
Victorian
gets so much
ghost?
attention.
She's Jesus Christ. Is there
Yes.
even a cure for tuberculosis? I don't think
I don't
there
know,
is.
but her, you know, the little tab, the little
yeah.
pinch test,
Yeah.
it had a reaction on her.
Holy shit.
Yes. And I was just like, ugh, she gets everything. She's so lucky.
You're so stupid. Well, you could just paint yourself with lead-based paint if you'd like, but you have to remain pretty emotionless if you do paint your face with this lead-based paint, because if you smiled or frowned too much, then it would crack and people would know that you weren't dying of tuberculosis and that you had just fake paint on your face.
Aww.
The lead-based paint could cause, nothing serious. Just a little eye swelling, inflammation, baldness, paralysis, muscle atrophy, brain swelling, a little death.
Right,
But you
a
get
little
the
death.
attention that you were looking for. So.
Right.
One other beauty trick that people of the time used to get beautiful was glistening eyes. They loved having glistening eyes.
Okay.
So that sometimes they would squeeze, a few drops of orange juice or perfume into their eyes to make their eyes, like, I would think fucking beet red, but...
Right.
But if you didn't want to go that route, you could use belladonna. Do you know this?
Belladonna? Isn't that poisonous?
Yes, it's deadly nightshade. And they would put it into their eyes because it would dilate the pupils and it lasted a lot longer than perfume or orange juice.
Uh-huh.
And it only had the unfortunate side effect of blindness.
Oh, okay. All right.
It was great.
I know I've said this a few times, but I had a garden club at our school.
Yes.
And we grew belladonna.
What the fuck?
Yes.
Why?
We thought that they were baby tomatoes.
Oh my God.
And one of my students was like, can I just eat right from the garden? And I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Girl.
Those are the baby tomatoes over there. Because that's what we were growing in that bed. But it was also nightshade.
Holy shit.
And I said, wait, let me check it before you eat it. Thank God.
Oh my
that's
God,
the only reason why I'm not in jail.
They could have died.
Yeah.
Probably would have.
Yeah.
How the fuck do you even get belladonna?
I don't know. But, like, I looked it up in Google Lens, and and that's what it was.
Holy shit.
Yes.
Well, I'm so glad that you're not in jail.
I'm glad that I'm not in jail, too. I don't think I would work out.
No, I don't think so
No.
either. So anyway, this is the time and place that Mary Ann Cotton is from.
Oh, I forgot you were telling a story.
Yeah. She was born Mary Ann Robson on Halloween, 1832.
On Halloween, no less.
Yeah, to Margaret and Michael Robson. Her father was a colliery skinner in the coal mines, and this is the guy who specializes in creating new vertical mine shafts. And this job is a highly skilled, highly trained job, and the workers who do this were often regarded as the elite workforce.
Oh.
Her sister Margaret was born 1834, but she only lived a few months, and her brother Robert was born 1835. Mary was 8 years old, and her parents decided to move her and the family to County Durham village of Morton. A description of Mary is given by her childhood Sunday school superintendent, describes her as mostly exemplary and a regular attender. A girl of innocent disposition, average intelligence, and distinguished for being particularly clean and having a tidy appearance, which is probably a big fucking deal back then.
Right.
Having a clean kid.
Yeah.
Also, some of the soap that they used back then, I meant to mention this earlier, the soap when I was talking about the arsenic wafers, the soap had arsenic in it as well. So they were literally rubbing fucking arsenic on themselves to be clean.
Yeah,
you know?
and lie.
And lie, yes, all of that, yeah.
All that good stuff.
So soon after the move in 1842, Mary Ann's father fell 150 feet to his death down one of the mine shafts.
Oh, shit.
Her father's body was delivered to her mother in a bag, a sack, bearing the stamp property of South Hetton Coal Company. Just dumped them on the front porch.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah. As the miner's cottage that they lived in was tied to his job, the widow and the children were going to have to move.
Icky. They wouldn't even let them stay?
No. But luckily, her mother hurried up, married another miner.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Named George Stout, and they were able to stay in the town.
How the hell did
Resourceful. Resourceful.
Yeah,
She's like, how you doing?
You like pussy? I got you. Wow.
Most sources say that Mary Ann was not a fan of her new stepdad, and that's why she beat feet at 16. She left to be a nurse at a nearby village in the home of Edward Porter, who was a manager of, something in the town. Within 3 years, she returned and began to be trained as a dressmaker. So she had all of these little skills. Mm-hmm. In 1852, 20-year-old Mary Ann married colliery laborer William Mowbray.
Wow, she was 20?
Yeah.
She was a fucking old maid,
right? Yeah.
She was a spinster.
Yeah. All of this story, her whole life, takes place within 20 years. The span of what I'm about to tell you. It wasn't a big fancy wedding. No dress, no gifts, no guests or whatever. It was just at the local registrar's office, and they moved to southwest England. At the time of her trial, there were reports of them having 4 or 5 children, all dying young while they were living out of County Durham. So, they don't know exactly how many kids she had. She only comes back with 1, but they count these, 4 or 5 kids.
Okay. So nobody knows how they died because kids were just dropping dead all the time.
So none of these deaths are registered, even though it was the law to register children's births and deaths at the time. But the law wasn't really enforced until 1874, just because they were just like...
Right. Also, like, there's no database. Like, how are you going to know?
Yeah, most of the time they kept record, like, as the baptisms at the churches. And the church would have, like, big books, and that's where you would find it. The only birth on record is that of her daughter, Margaret Jane, who was born at St. Germans in 1856. So William and Marianne moved back to northeast England, where William worked as a fireman aboard a steam vessel and then as a colliery foreman. So it's like, these are like coal mining people, you know?
Yeah. Well, a fireman was the guy that would put the fire into the coal into the engines and keep the train running.
So these are like hardworking, working class people.
Yeah.
That
was hard work.
Yes, hell yeah, all of this.
Yeah.
Another daughter, Isabella, is born 1858, and then Margaret Jane died in 1860.
How old was she?
She would have been like 4.
Oh, okay.
Or 5. Another daughter, also named Margaret Jane, is born in 1861, and then John Robert William was born in 1863. And then he died the next year of gastric fever. Okay?
The fuck is gastric fever?
So, like, stomach ailments or whatever.
A stomach ache.
Yeah. Or, like, whatever.
Yes.
William, her husband, dies in 1865 of an intestinal disorder. Now, I will just say, like, this is the problem with people not necessarily believing that she committed all these murders.
Right.
Because doctors put these on death certificates.
Right.
Like, a doctor examined him, and also we're talking about 1860s doctors.
Right.
They're like, there's ghosts in your blood. Like, you know, like, who fucking knows what
You must perform an exorcism.
Yes.
Let's bloodlet.
Right. So, you know, he may have had an intestinal disorder, but he dies. So the lives of William and their children were insured by the British and Prudential insurance offices. And
Prudential was back then?
Yes.
Bro.
Yeah. And Marianne collects a $35 pound payout.
A $35 pound?
I'm sorry. A 35-pound payout
Okay.
on William's death. So that's equivalent to $3,349. Or pounds, sorry.
Right.
Which is about a half a year's wage for a manual labor at that time.
Okay.
So she basically gets like 6 months worth of his.
Yeah, that's a come up.
And also gets 25 pounds for their son. So it's like almost another 6 months worth.
Oh, from the insurance company.
Yes.
Okay.
For their life.
Right.
So she's got like a year's worth.
So she made like a year's worth
yeah,
of... Yeah.
She's doing all right. So after William's death, Marianne moved to Seaham Harbor in County Durham, where she began a relationship with Joseph Nattrass, but she does not marry him. During this time, her 3.5-year-old daughter, the second Margaret Jane, died of typhus fever, leaving her with only one child, Isabella. After the second Margaret's death, she returned to Sunderland, where she found work at the Sunderland Infirmary House of Recovery for the Cure of Contagious Fever Dispensary and Humane Society. That's the name of the whole place.
The HSCCCCCHHHHH.
She sent her one surviving child, Isabella, to live with her mother, and one of her patients at the infirmary was engineer George Ward. They married at St. Peter's Church on August 28th.
Damn, she has no problem getting guys.
No. For the time, they said she was like...
attractive.
Yes.
She didn't look like she was infected with rickets or anything.
Yeah. She's like just a regular old lady looking person, in my opinion. Ward continued to suffer ill health and died on October 20th, 1866, after a long illness characterized by paralysis and intestinal problems.
Huh.
The cause of death recorded on his death certificate was that of English cholera and typhoid. An attending doctor later gave evidence that Ward had been very ill, leading up to his death, but he was surprised that the death was so sudden. So,
right.
She met him in a hospital. He was sickly, but, he still just, died right after they got married.
Right.
So Marianne collected the insurance money, on the death of her husband. She then was hired as a housekeeper in November 1866 at the home of James Robson. He was a shipwright in Sunderland, and his wife Hannah had just recently died. So a month later, when James' baby son John died of gastric fever, he turned to his housekeeper, Marianne, for, comfort.
So wait a minute. So she was living with him and taking care of their son, and then...
All his kids. He had a couple of kids.
And one of the kids in
His
her
baby.
care.
Yeah.
Okay.
Died, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so now he's distraught over the death of his wife, the death of his baby. So he
Right.
runs the arms of the housekeeper. After they're consoling.
Right. Yes.
They're
yes.
canoodling.
Yes.
Whatever you want to call it. Marianne becomes pregnant.
Scandalous.
Scandalo. After she finds out she's pregnant, she hears that her mother's ill with hepatitis, so she goes to help her mother while she's, heavy with child, I guess. Although her mother was seemingly on the mend, she began to complain of stomach pains. And 9 days after Marianne's arrival...
Fuck.
Yeah.
Marianne.
Yeah. So in 1867, Marianne's stepfather, George, remarried, right after the mom dies.
I mean, that seems to be
Yeah.
a pattern for these people.
Yeah. He remarries the widowed neighbor, Hannah Paley. Marianne's daughter, Isabella, who was being raised by her mother, is brought back with Marianne to live with her new stepfather and his children,
Right.
James. And James has two other children, Elizabeth and I guess James Jr. All three children are living with James and Marianne, and within weeks, all three children die.
What?
Yeah, they're all buried the last week of April and the first week of May in 1867.
What did they die of?
They complained of stomach pains and developed...
Gastric fevers.
Yeah, severe stomach pains, yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so dropping like flies. People are just
Yeah.
dropping like flies around her. Marianne received a life insurance payment for Isabella. So the children are buried in April and May of 1867.
Uh-huh.
They get married in August of 1867. Just months later.
Right, yeah.
Their first child, the third Margaret Isabella,
Well, she's really onto that name.
yeah. She was born that November. She became ill and died in February of 1868.
Fuck.
Their second child, George, was born in June 1869. Meanwhile, old James becomes suspicious of his wife's insistence to insure his life, and he discovers that she runs up a debt of 60 pounds behind his back and then had stole more than 50 pounds that she was supposed to be, depositing in their bank, I guess.
What was she spending?
I have no idea. My understanding is that she, loved to be fancy. Even though they were,
Yeah.
working class poor people, she, liked to have fancy dresses, liked to have
Right.
nice things. So, So 60 pounds today would be 8,594 pounds. So,
Wow. Yeah. So
she was
ran
on a
up-
tear, yeah. So he finds all this out. He throws her out. He doesn't divorce her, but he throws her out, and he keeps custody of their son.
Okay.
So, he's a fucking hero of the story.
Yeah.
Because, he's the only husband...
Does he survive?
The only husband and child that survived
There
her.
you go.
Yeah. So now
Damn.
Marianne's in trouble. She was desperate and living on the streets until her friend, Margaret Cotton, introduced her to her brother, Frederick. He was a pitman, and he was a recent widow, and he had a couple little kids.
Wait. Her friend Margaret Cotton?
Yeah.
I thought that this was Margaret Cotton.
Her name is Marianne Cotton. So she marries her brother, Frederick Cotton.
Oh, she wasn't Cotton.
She hasn't been Cotton yet. Yeah, she's about
Okay,
to marry
got it,
Frederick.
got
yeah.
it, got it.
So Frederick he had 4 children. 2 of them had already died before he met Marianne.
Okay.
So Margaret...
So he's already okay.
And his wife died.
Kids are gonna die.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Margaret had been acting as substitute mother for the remaining children until her death in March 1870, when she died from an undetermined stomach ailment, leaving Marianne to console grieving Frederick Sr.
Oh, damn it.
So then she and Frederick found themselves in the family way. And this is when...
I love that word. I love it.
This is when Marianne becomes pregnant with her possible 12th child.
Wow. Is this another Margaret?
No, I don't think so. Frederick Cotton and Marianne were bigamously married on September 17th, 1870.
What do you mean bigamously?
Because she wasn't divorced from the last guy.
Oh, that's right.
So
He just put her out.
He just kicked her to the curb.
Right.
Yeah. So she gets married to Frederick Cotton, and their son Robert was born 1871. So this is her second Robert, I think.
Yeah, she just keeps recycling
Yeah.
these names.
So soon after, Mary learned that her former lover, Joseph Nattrass, was living 30 miles away in a village in West Auckland, and he was no longer married. So she rekindled their romance and persuaded her new family to move near him. As soon as they do, Frederick Cotton, her husband, died that year in December of
Wait, which one was
fever.
Nattrass?
Nattrass was the boyfriend that she had she never married him, but she was kind of fucking around with him. But then she got married to the guy, Ward, who was in the hospital.
Oh, okay.
But she never married that guy.
All right.
So she moves her whole family over to where Natras is.
Right.
And then, boom, her husband dies.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be a widow.
Gastric fever, yeah.
Right.
Marianne collects life insurance policy. After Frederick's death, Joseph Natras soon becomes Marianne's lodger. So he moves in, rents a room from her.
Okay.
She gained employment as a nurse to an officer recovering from smallpox. Popular culture sources have called him John Quick Manning. There appears to be no trace of John Quick Manning. There's no records of him, basically.
Okay.
In the area. People have looked for what his real name could have been, but there is a man by the name of Richard Quick Mann, who they believe was actually her real lover. The reason he's important is because she becomes pregnant with her 13th child.
Oh my God.
So Frederick Jr. dies in March 1872, and the infant Robert soon after. So now she's pregnant with this kid.
This brand new baby.
Yeah.
Baby number 13.
And everybody else is dead. except this
Jesus
baby.
Christ. So she's lost now 12 kids.
Except the one that the father kept that
Right,
kicked her
yes,
to the curb.
yes,
Yeah.
the survivor.
Right. Joseph Natras becomes ill with gastric fever, and just after receiving information that she'd been left everything in his will, he dies. She's pregnant with her 13th kid, and she has one child left that's Charles Edward, who's Frederick Cotton's son.
Right.
He was not her son. She was his stepmother.
Oh, okay. So
But since the father died, his mother was already dead. She has him, but he's not actually her son.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is not her actual son; it's her stepson. Charles Edward is the only kid left that isn't killed yet,
Okay.
or isn't dead yet. I shouldn't
And
say
he's
they're killed.
his stepmother.
Her stepson. Yeah.
Yeah.
She takes a life insurance policy out on him, right? And this boy would be the demise of her.
Okay.
Her downfall. Problems began for Mary when a parish official, Thomas Riley, asked her to help be a nurse to a woman who was ill with smallpox. She complained that the last surviving Cotton boy, Charles Edward, was in the way and asked Riley if he could be committed to a workhouse, which is so fucked up.
Right.
He's like, well, he can't. He's a kid. You have to go with him.
Right.
And she's like, well, he won't be trouble long because he's like a little sickly and he'll go the same way as all the rest of the Cottons.
Right.
5 days later, Marianne told Riley that the boy had died. And Riley went to the village police and convinced the doctor to delay writing the birth certificate until...
The death certificate.
The death certificate until circumstances could be
Yeah.
worked out. Because he's like, what the fuck? She just said
Yeah.
he was going to die and then he dies.
And then she winked.
That's weird. Yeah.
Right.
Marianne's first stop after Charles' death is not the doctors, but the insurance company.
Oh, fuck you, Marianne.
Yeah. So she discovered that there would be no money until a death certificate was issued. So an inquest was held, and they came back that the death was of natural causes. And Marianne claimed to have used arrowroot to relieve his illness, and she didn't know why he died, and that the only reason Riley was making accusations against her was because he fancied her, and she, like, rebuffed his advances or whatever.
Wasn't she pregnant at the time?
Yeah, she's pregnant with, like, this guy that,
right,
you know, whatever.
Her 13th child, right?
Yes.
He's probably going to be freaking born with horns and fucking
Like
cloven feet and shit.
So then local newspapers get wind of this and they just like latch onto the story and they're like, Marianne moved around Northern England. She lost 3 husbands, a lover, a friend, a mother, 11 children, all of whom had like some sort of stomach related issue. As rumors tend to do, they gave rise to suspicion, which triggered a scientific investigation. Dr. William Byers Kilbourne, who attended Charles after his death, kept samples and tests showed that they contained arsenic. You know,
but wasn't like in the beauty products?
it was, right.
Right.
So it's like,
Circumstantial
who's to
evidence,
say?
right?
Yeah. He told police and Mary was arrested. They had Charles' body exhumed and checked him for arsenic or whatever, and I guess it was
Wow,
found.
the science.
Yeah.
Even back then they could do that?
So like when you die of arsenic poisoning, see, this is why I think it's confusing, but like when you die, we've told stories in the past where they're fucking teeming with arsenic, like their organs are like black, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, who's to say? Like, was he ingesting it? Was he breathing it in? Was he wearing it on his clothes? Was he washing it with his skin? Like, you know, who's to say? So she's charged with murder, although the trial was delayed until after the birth of her 13th child on January 7th, 1873, whom she named Margaret Edith Quick Manning Cotton. Her trial begins on March 5th, 1873. So a delay was caused by a problem in the selection of prosecution counsel. This sounded like some political bullshit. A Mr. Aspinwall was first considered, but the Attorney General, Sir John Duke Coleridge, decided that he wanted to choose his friend and protege, Charles Russell. Russell's appointment over Aspinwall led to a question, is she going to get a fair trial? Like, in the House of Commons, all this shit. However, it was accepted, and Russell conducted the prosecution. The Cotton case was the first of several famous poisoning cases that he would be involved in during his career, including Adelaide Bartlett and Florence Maybrick. And just so you know, I have been on a rabbit hole of poisoning women. So we may have a series coming. I just don't know yet.
A whole series. Okay. Well, hear me out.
Yeah.
If you are accused of a crime, we need to destroy your freaking hard drive.
Just smash it.
Yeah, we need to destroy it.
Yeah. The defense in the case was handled by Thomas Campbell Foster, who argued during the trial that Charles had died from inhaling arsenic from the dye in the green wallpaper in the Cotton home, which they did have.
Right.
And they used arsenic soap, and
yeah, they were an arsenic family.
Yeah, everyone was.
Right.
Like, fucking the town had to been like, you couldn't even probably walk through it.
Right.
Like fucking Chernobyl.
Like,
you know
if we went there today, like, if time travel were possible, we'd be instantly dead.
Yeah, you like the residual, even you walk through that town now, you like the residual arsenic must be like seeping up through the grass and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe that's why British people have such bad teeth.
I'm gonna kill you.
We have lost all our British listeners.
The jury retired for 90 minutes, came back with a guilty verdict, and the Times correspondent on March 20th said this. After conviction, the wretched woman exhibited strong emotion, but this gave place a few hours to her habitual cold, reserved demeanor, while she harbors strong conviction that the royal clemency will be extended towards her. She staunchly asserts her innocence of the crime that she has been convicted of. Several petitions were set forth for her, but to no avail. On March 24th, 1873, Marianne was hanged.
That's my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
She was hung on my birthday.
Yes. Just wait, you're going to love this.
Okay.
She was hanged in a bungled execution. It was performed by a notoriously clumsy hangman, and the trapdoor was not positioned high enough to break her neck, forcing the executioner to have to press down on her shoulders.
No.
So I have a description written at the time of the hanging. It is not for the faint of heart. So
trigger
if you
warning.
Don't want to hear, like, skip forward like 2 minutes, but I would love for you to read it to the class.
Oh, yes, please.
Okay.
I'm reading it to the class?
Yes.
If you are, she laughed at that.
I stuck my tongue out in glee. If you are a faint of heart, decent human being, maybe you want to skip ahead.
Just a couple of minutes.
The near approach of the melancholy cortege.
That's a...
Cortege?
I looked it up, yeah. It's like a line of people, like a procession of people, particularly at a funeral.
Cortege?
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Cortege.
Okay, the near approach of the melancholy cortege as it neared the gate was made known by Marianne Corton's half-subdued tones of prayers. Other prayers were being said by the attending religious men who accompanied her, her sobs and choking tears audibly heard over the encroaching procession of death. As she prayed, her body was subjected to agonizing spasms and shivering, which are all too familiar with such state executions. A more dreadful creature than Marianne Cotton has seldom been seen, as she made her way to the place of her execution. Her eyes turned up to heaven, her brave efforts to conquer her most terrible ordeal yet to come, her body in nervous tremors, which by this stage shook her body from top to toe. It was evident for all to see that she dragged her unwilling body and limbs by sheer strength of will, and once or twice it looked as though she would completely break down, but that event did not occur as the poor wretch struggled to maintain her uneasy rendezvous with her doom. When Marianne had reached the point where the press had been marshaled by Thompson Smith, as they passed the press joined to the rear of the procession, many a reporter could but comment as to how stoic but pitiful she looked, the poor unfortunate creature now minutes away from her death. As the procession moved on to a point where a projecting wing of the prison hid the gallows, Marianne was heard to say, "Heaven is my home, Lord have mercy on me." As they reached a point about 80 yards from the entrance they had just left, they passed this wing, only for Marianne to see the instrument of her death, the gallows, black and at arm's length. This hideous contraption, so deadly in its simplicity, was now just a matter of a few steps away. Marianne seemed to flinch visibly. She then shook with fear. She stood still, her limbs shocked at the sight, so much so that the male warders thought that she would have to be dragged to her doom. Not so. She bid them that she would walk, and she carried on the short steps it took to reach the gallows unaided. As she gasped and gave out great sighs, Marianne had now less than 60 seconds of her life remaining. The time was 8 o'clock. In an instant, Calcraft and Evans took charge of the execution. Marianne was manipulated onto the trap doors below the noose. 2 male warders stood off the drop to either side of Marianne. She was now shivering in an uncontrollable manner, and never had Calcraft or Evans acted so fast in that their moment of celebrity. Marianne looked around, her gaze catching the eyes of many. They instantly looked away, fearing a sight of "help me," as she gasped and sighed in sheer panic. Calcraft and Evans immediately turned Marianne around the contrary way in which she had walked, so that she was now facing the south. She was frantically saying over and over again, "Lord, have mercy on my soul. Lord, take my soul." Calcraft took a white hood and immediately placed it over Marianne's shaking head. Her frantic inward and outward breathing could be visibly seen through the cotton hood. Her head moved from side to side, her body arched as Calcraft reached out and pulled at the noose hanging from the center of the beam. Calcraft worked quickly. He adjusted the noose so that it was tight, and that the knot of 1 3/4 inches of manila rope was to the right of Marianne's right ear. She could be heard sobbing, "Lord, receive my soul. Lord, have mercy." Evans pinioned her ankles with strong leather straps. He stood up, looked at Calcraft, and backed away to the bolt. Calcraft stood aside. The male warders were safe. No signal was given, and then Evans, still wearing his broad-brimmed hat, drew the bolt. The under-sheriff, Richard Bowser, who should have given the signal by dropping a handkerchief, was so shocked at the barbaric spectacle that he fainted into the arms of the 2 male warders, still clutching his handkerchief. Marianne plummeted sharply as the drop opened with a terrific boom. It echoed around the execution site to the screams and obscenities being shouted by the prisoners. Marianne dropped only about 2 feet. Her head suddenly jerked to the left-hand side of her body. She swung around, her hands clasping in a frantic attempt to tear off the throttling appendage. Her legs were kicking, her arms trying desperately to be released from the leather restraints. She swung from side to side as the witnesses looked on, all now very sure of one thing: she was not killed instantly. Far from it. She was struggling for her very life. Calcraft had again bungled the execution. The drop of only about 2 feet was totally inadequate for a quick, humane, instant death. So much so that old Calcraft could actually lean down to Marianne's shoulders and push her down in an effort to speed up her death. As he did, he felt Marianne rearing up and down. He pushed harder in an effort to stifle her last attempts at life. He looked uneasily at the witnesses, as though to reassure them that all was correct and was going to plan. The pressmen had never seen such a spectacle. Several were said to be greatly overcome with emotions. Some even balked and were retching in a sickening act of human nature. Marianne remained hanging in a macabre display of the power of the law, her body writhing, twisting, turning her white hood, showing signs of spattered blood about her mouth and nose. This endless atrocity lasted for several minutes. The thrashings and convulsions slowly calmed. The twitching and convulsions eased, and Mary's body finally found salvation and atonement after nearly 3 minutes of enduring a slow, agonizing, and painful throttling. As Calcraft turned around and talked to Evans, what life Mary Ann Cotton had left was now nothing more than several sporadic muscular twitchings of a lifeless corpse. The 2 male warders who were on either side of Mary Ann at the drop were said to be ashen white in near shock and quite overcome with mixed emotions about capital punishment. The female warders who had guarded Marianne for several months were deeply saddened by witnessing the execution. Some cried, and others just simply looked on in shock and disbelief at such a harrowing scene. As the final spasms ceased, and Marianne's corpse swayed in the morning breeze, her checked black and white shawl could be seen lying alongside the wooden planks of the gallows, along with her shoes placed neatly and next to the wooden chair which had been placed there just in case she could not stand for her execution. That morning's damp and misty atmosphere slightly wetted the white hood over Marianne's head. The spattering of bloodstains turned the hood into something quite similar to a bag of blackberries freshly picked, but slightly crushed during walking. The outline of her face could be seen as the damp hood clung to her face like a death mask. Her black raven hair could be seen protruding underneath the white hood, gently flicking and moving with the breeze. The witnesses were silent, many in a state of shock. Then, silence, complete silence. The crowds that had gathered outside of the prison were asked to move on by the police. Crowds could be seen on the high ground overlooking the prison leaving that area, like sheep being called in by the farmer. As they dispersed, the formalities of death were not completed within the prison. Marianne Cotton would be left to hang by the law for a further period of 1 hour. That's dark.
That's some descriptive ass shit. And that wasn't even it. Like, it went on and on after that. Like, that's just, like, an account of the actual hanging. But, like, then they took her body and, like, they did a mold of her head because they wanted to, like, study her brain for science. And, like,
you could really visualize
they really,
because, like, you could still, like, kind of see the twitching, how it would twitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So, also, in my nursery rhyme research, I found out there was a little ditty about Marianne Cotton and her botched execution, just for the kiddos.
Oh, okay, just for the little kiddos. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
You want to hear it?
I think Peppa Pig covered it.
I think maybe, yeah. Marianne Cotton, she's dead and she's rotten, lying in bed with her eyes wide open. Sing, sing, oh, what should I sing? Marianne Cotton, she's tied up with string. Where, up in the air, selling black puddings, a penny a pair. Marianne Cotton, she's dead and forgotten, lying in bed with her bones all rotten. Sing, sing, what can I sing? Marianne Cotton, tied up with a string.
Wow. I think I used to jump rope to that.
Did you?
Jesus.
I had never heard that one.
Oh my God,
but that's
dark.
Yeah. That's the story of Marianne Cotton.
Jeez.
So there's a two-part miniseries on Amazon Prime called Dark Angel. It came out in 2015 about this.
Really?
Based on Marianne Cotton. There's also a book written called Dark Angel, or something with Dark Angel in the title. And that author is the one who really makes a case for a lot of the deaths being natural causes or, accidental poisonings,
right.
Not necessarily her poisoning, but many people believe that she is, one of England's first serial killer on record. Certainly.
Regardless, if many of the killings were not her fault, she was responsible for a few.
I certainly think so.
Yes.
I certainly think so.
If you're cashing a check directly after something, conveniently.
Buried the kid.
Yes, come on now. Yeah. Let me stop by the bank.
Yeah, right. I don't think she's necessarily an innocent soul, but...
Yeah, and her begging for her soul, she must have been like, I'm going to go to hell.
Yeah, right. But that description of her death is pretty horrific.
Good Lord.
It's like a whole website of where I guess back in the day they would write about this kind of shit in the newspaper or whatever. Right. And there's all of this.
It's so funny because it's how you go to YouTube and you listen to podcasts for these really descriptive,
Certainly,
right? Reddit at the very least.
Yeah,
read it about it or whatever. But back then you couldn't go somewhere to watch it. So people, these are the true crime writers,
Definitely.
The early true crime writers.
Yeah. And that person, whoever wrote that, is super descriptive. I mean, they were there. They took in every bit of that with their eyes.
Right.
Like the description of like, you can picture what her face with the mask on would have looked like. And
right.
like,
with the wet mask.
Yeah.
And like,
and whatever the dew
face.
and whatever, but she was probably sweating and she was crying and she was breathing. You could, like, you know, the way it's like, she's breathing in and out.
When she was breathing in and out, you imagine it like,
that was descriptive, man. I was like, holy shit. Lydia's going to want to hear this.
Yeah. You know me.
I do know you.
What a treat.
This also makes me think of the amount of death certificates that were issued for gastric intestinal deaths.
Yeah.
For gastric fever.
Fever, because that was a lot. That was the other woman that used to kill everyone. I think you covered Belle Gunness.
Yeah.
So
did I cover that?
I don't know. Maybe we just know that story because
I thought we covered Belle Gunness.
I don't know.
But I
do know that story.
I've heard it so many times, but she was also, everybody was dying because of gastric fever around her. It was the same thing. So
I mean,
the amount of people that probably died of gastric fever that didn't die of gastric fever
I mean,
is a lot.
It's a crime of opportunity, really.
Well, it's sort of what you were saying the first episode this season, where you were saying like, oh, if, you know, people are dying of the same thing, like it's easy to make it seem like, oh, we all have typhus, or oh, we all have, you know, tuberculosis, and everybody's dying.
Mean?
Your Axeman story, where you were saying like, oh, there's obviously someone,
there's a madman out there.
I can kill my wife and make it look like it's part of the Axeman series or
copycat
whatever.
murders.
Right, copycats, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting thought. Especially back then when it was like literally the Wild West. You're like, there's no police, and the police force is not, you know, there's certainly not detectives, there's no science, you know, any science that they're talking about.
And just think about it,
anything.
in any case, like let's say during COVID, or, you know, any time that you have like a you know, uncertainty, confusion,
right?
You know, like during Hurricane Sandy, during fucking
9/11.
Yeah. During Hurricane Maria, was it?
Katrina.
Katrina. That's what I'm saying. Like, you have a lot of criminals that look for those opportunities to act.
Sure.
And they'll never be caught.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think there's a 9/11, like this woman went missing the morning of 9/11.
Yes.
And like, it's like this whole thing, like she was not in the tower, she was not whatever, and she's just missing, and like nobody really followed it because there was chaos. Right. There was nothing they could do, you know?
Yeah.
And that is interesting to me, of like those people that do take advantage of like the ability to sneak in under the wire, and that's so scary.
Exactly. They take advantage of the chaos happening around them, and they just fucking sneak in under the wire.
That's scary. Yeah. Yeah, it's dark.
Anyway, so that's it for us. We'll see you next week, but in the meantime, subscribe so you don't miss out. We have merch, we have Patreon, we have Buy Me a Coffee, and you can write a review and share with someone you love. Here's an example of a review that you can leave us. This is a 5-star review. Each episode, the hosts contrive to present true crime topics and include food and drink recipes that accompany the subject matter. So fun to see the mixes and matches of the collision between culinary treats and gruesome criminality. Cheers, y'all! I freaking love that. This is a wordsmith.
Yeah,
love
that's
it.
A good one, yeah.
Love it.
Because my initial thought was contrive an insult? I'm going to have to Google that word.
I know, right? So many words I have to look up. Write us a review like that, or don't bother. You can connect with us on all of the social medias. We're out there. Just Google it. Do a quick goog.
A little googs.
And check you out next week. And remember, do not get taken to the second location. Be good, or be good at hiding the body. Cheers.
Cheers.
Are you okay?
Jesus Christ. You're so fucking loud. You're disgusting, and I hate you both.